Welcome back to the Eagle Arts Podcast. Today we're joined by the Tyrone Area High School class of 2004 alumni, Jordan Rhoat. He is the juror of the 25th annual Tyrone Area High School Art Show, which is happening this afternoon in the high school gym. Since graduating from Tyrone, Jordan has built an impressive and varied career in the arts. After graduating from Tyrone, he studied painting at the Maryland Institute College of Art. He has exhibited work across the United States and internationally, curated exhibitions, and worked in writing, design, and digital communications. Today, he lives in Bedford County, where he continues to create art, teach, write, and serve others through his organization, Yard and Bridge. We're excited to talk to him about his journey from TAHS student to professional artist, and about how art, life experiences, and purpose have shaped his path. Jordan, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
The first question I have for you is, how does it feel to come back to Tyrone as a juror of this year's art show?
It's an honor, especially because it's Mr. Feather's last year. I don't know if he's announced that, but so I don't want to. But yeah, and I feel a little old, so that's also scary.
When you think back to your time at TAHS, what stands out most about your experiences in art classes?
It was just a great place to escape, kind of. Sometimes school can be hard, especially if you have a disability. And so that was just a great place to unwind and felt comfortable because I was in there so much. By the time I was a senior, I had like 3 or 4 classes in the art room, so it felt like a second home. And really got close to Mr. Feather and some friends that I made and stuff. So does that answer? Yeah.
Out of all of the art classes that you took at Tyrone, which one was your favorite?
Whenever I started to do like art studio, and you could really focus on what you wanted to do and what you were interested in, and when you really started to break that down, that was cool. And that was very beneficial for later, for college.
Are you most interested in like painting, drawing? What's your main focus?
Yeah, I always draw just because that's a part of before painting. And so you always just want to keep up drawing, like we were talking in the hallway. It's a muscle. It's like exercising. You got to do it or you'll lose the muscle. So then, but really, I primarily focus on painting when I was making more 2D work. But now I consider it really a third arm or an extension of what I do is writing, and because that's still like painting a picture in your mind and all this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. At what point did you realize art was becoming more than just an interest to you?
Oh, that was probably early on. I took classes out of school, private lessons I think I was in middle school. And that was pretty defining moment. Even before that in like elementary school, I had a great teacher, Mrs. Miller, and she at Northern Bedford. And she just really showed me that I had a natural talent and that I should feed it, Mm-hmm. So yeah.
How important was building a formal portfolio in high school?
Very, because I was able to get into the Pennsylvania Governor's School for the Arts, which I believe doesn't exist anymore, which is kind of sad. And then of course you have to have a very strong portfolio to go to art school, and your work has to be coherent. That your themes and the things that you're interested have to blend together, and you have to have a foundation of drawing, and so that was very helpful. Without that, it would be, I don't know what I would have done. You had to use those years in high school to build up your portfolio is really important.
Yeah. What was it like being selected for the Pennsylvania Governor's School of the Arts?
That was awesome. That was my first, real award, or like, I don't know what the word would be, being selected for something prestigious. And it was a hard lesson to learn because you're in Tyrone, or if you're in any school, you're kind of the big fish, like if you're one of the better art students or whatever skill you may have. But then what's really great is when you go to something like Pennsylvania Governor's School for the Arts, everyone is really good. So you're like a little fish in a big pond again, which is really good for you to learn that, and drop your ego and
It helps you to continue to grow.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You can't grow without tension, I think.
Yeah.
So.
You went on to study at the Maryland Institute College of Arts on a scholarship. What was that experience like?
It was crazy. I was just thinking about it today because of just knowing that we were going to do this. And, before Tyrone, I came from the Northern Bedford area, which is mostly just all cornfields. Mm-hmm. Maryland Institute College of Art is in Baltimore. And I don't know if you've ever been there, any listeners or it's a crazy city. So it was a culture shock.
Yeah.
And then art school is, they call it the liberal arts, which is not literal, but it was a very liberal place so coming from a conservative, traditional neighborhood. And so it was crazy. I don't know. Yeah. And you quickly learn how to act in a city because it's not anything like you would in a small town. And you can't just walk around like an idiot. And so there's a lot of cultural barriers that you have to overcome. And this is before the days of, I had my first cell phone in college, so that's how old I am. But so, to even get around in the city, we couldn't just look up your phone. Like we would print out maps, or you just really had to get lost and figure it out. So that was all that stuff was a lot. And then, of course, the college itself was extremely difficult. I think I had 4 roommates my freshman year, and 2 dropped out, just in the people that I lived with. So it was it's very rigorous, which I think a myth about art school is that it's easy or just all fun. But especially the Maryland Institute College of Art because it was so foundation driven, the first 2 years you're still just drawing and painting still lifes and really trying to hone your classical skills. So it can be kind of draining because you might want to go express yourself, but you have to learn the rules before you can break them. So that was all of that together it's a memorable thing I will never forget and defining.
Yeah, that's awesome. How did your post-secondary education challenge or change the way you thought about art?
Yeah, let's see. It broke a lot of. Yeah, that's a hard question. This might need to be edited.
Yeah.
Let me think. Can you ask me again? Can you ask?
How did your post-secondary education challenge or change the way you think about art?
Yeah, just because there's so many art history courses too at the college level, and you realize all the stuff you don't know, and that is really overwhelming. Because in high school you might start with you like Van Gogh or the people that we all know, but then you really have to learn all these people that you've never heard of that really matter and why they matter, and that just changes your perspective. And then I kind of remember feeling, always thought during high school that art was so freeing and that you can do whatever you want. But once again, kind of what I said earlier, you have to learn all the the rules and the classical structure to it, which is, it's kind of surprising because you don't realize how much you have to do that, Yeah.
You've had a really varied career, exhibiting work, curating shows, running a gallery, writing, design, and communications. How did that path unfold?
Kind of naturally, because when I got out of college, there's not like a job for a painter. You just so you kind of have to make your own lane. And what is a good skill I learned at MICA is problem solving, which is probably most colleges should really help you be solving problems. So. And that's a problem coming out of college, and you're like, how am I going to make my income, especially for painting, where it's kind of it's like a weird skill that no one really cares about in a sense, and you have to make people care about it. So things happen, and then I just naturally, it's like someone will say, well, could you draw this tattoo, or could you draw me a logo, or so those kind of things, and then you kind of branch out into things that you might not have done, and that's how I got into graphic design and designing things. And then I got into it, just kind of naturally happened, and I was always interested in websites and stuff. And part of being an artist, you have to you always have to write your own artist statement, or you have to be able to write about your work for galleries, because if you want to get into any gallery, you usually have to have a statement of why it fits into their program or whatever their idea is for the show. So writing is always a part of painting and drawing, I think. So yeah, that all just happens. Yeah, that's good.
How did your experiences in galleries and exhibitions shape your view of the art world?
I kind of was disillusioned after a while. I think because maybe, and I don't know if I should, you can cut this out if it's not appropriate, but I was just kind of, sometimes the art world, it saddened me how shallow it is, but it makes sense because since everything is so visual, on the exterior, that I would kind of got maybe lost in some of that, like where your exterior matters more than what's inside, and that can be kind of heartbreaking sometimes, especially if you care, and which I think a lot of artists are more empathic or have sympathy, or they feel things in the world, so you feel if someone isn't being deep or they're just shallow. So that's kind of hard, and I'm not saying everything in the art world is like that, but that was one thing that really blows your mind kind of.
What have you enjoyed most about working across art, writing, and communications?
Yeah, I love that because I think I naturally jump to ideas. I consider myself just more of a person that, not just a painter, but someone that deals with just ideas. And if it might not necessarily fit into like a 2D, like a drawing. So I love that you can make a website, or you can design something, or you can write. And writing has really been a freeing medium for me this part in my life. And which is crazy because actually when I first got to Micah, I was told that I wasn't a good writer. And I had to take this remedial English class in college. So then that kind of stuck with me. It took me 10 years or so because I had always liked writing, but I thought maybe I wasn't a good writer, so I didn't pursue things like that. And it wasn't until maybe in my 30s that I no, I can do that, Yeah.
I feel like writing's very subjective.
Yeah.
It's it's all about perception, honestly. I don't think there's such thing as a bad writer.
Right.
It all just has to do with how other people perceive your writing.
Yeah, I think, and in the arts in general too, someone could really hate something, or it could speak to someone else at the same time. So you have no idea.
It's like poetry, kind of.
Yeah.
A lot of people are very they hate it because they don't understand it.
Yeah, people aren't taught how to read it or what they should. Kind of with painting too, I think poetry and painting share that, where people, you're in front of a painting or you're in front of a piece of paper with a poem, and you think that you're supposed to think about it a certain way, but you're not taught that how you experience it is valid. Not just, but people tend to, because I hear this all the time, well, I don't know anything about art.
Yeah.
When they look at my art, well, that's not necessary. You don't have to. The painting, if I think a good piece of painting should, and a poem, it should speak to you. It either does or it doesn't. Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about one of your most recent projects, Yard and Bridge?
Yeah. Actually, it's really cool. It's been branching out. I've been enjoying, I've been writing newsletters for nonprofits, and that's really fun because you get to do the graphics and then try to shape their voice as a whole entity of their organization and to really represent them. And that's fun because it's a big problem to solve, and I think a lot of nonprofits, it's a lot of energy and they suffer from that, I think. Which you guys probably know because you post on social media, it's consistency, your voice matters, and you keep posting, and a lot of people just don't understand that kind of stuff maybe. I think your generation will probably be better at it than older generations. Because I think, I run into a lot of people they may be post on social once a month, but you don't understand how the algorithms work that you need to keep in people's faces, and which is, if you're a wallflower, it might not come natural to people.
Yeah.
So that's been fun. And then yesterday I met with a guy, I won't say who it is, but someone that wants to run for office in Pennsylvania, and he wanted help structuring his website and honing more of a voice, and maybe there's more potential for me to help him write speeches or just organize maybe a campaign type of manager, so it opens the doors for a lot of things when you start writing, so that's pretty awesome.
That is so cool. For students who think an art career has to look one certain way, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I think I thought that for a long time too. I spent, I don't know how many years, so when I was 20, now I'm 40, at least 15 years just like sticking my head down in the studio and not trying to get any attention and just trying to be the best that I can be. Because I think in our society there's this push that you're supposed to get attention right away, that you're wasting your life too. Like if you're not out there, you know, but you really should not be worried. I think this is the hardest thing. Like that's what I like about painting. It's such this old tradition that you're just supposed to, you really should just focus mainly on being the best you can, and it kind of all follows after that. That's what I think. Like if you have good work, then people will notice. I think, does that answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Your biography is very honest and about feeling like an outsider when you were young. How did those early experiences shape you as a person and as an artist?
Yeah, I think like maybe what I said earlier about just you have empathy or sympathy because your experiences help you connect to other people. So that's kind of been a great thing that can be redeeming about your life. Like something horrible in your life can happen, but if you can be strong enough to flip it and use it to help other people, because that's really what you're supposed to do, I think.
Yeah.
You know, instead of, you could go to, you know, there's a fork sometimes, like you can either be reclusive and go into depression, and I'm not, you know, that's not to blame anybody, or you can take the fork which is what you have to do, I think, to really, helping people helps you,
yes.
I think, so that's.
I agree.
Yeah.
How has your disability influenced your life and your art?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's obvious reason, you know, like I would probably have played sports, or because now I have two sons that are very athletic, and I don't think that that's not a part of me. It's just that I never got to, you know, I didn't do that stuff in school. So then I was kind of told young, like, wow, you have this natural skill for drawing, and then so pursue that. So that's definitely how my disability, you know, who knows what I would have done.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I just come from a very athletic family, too. So it's interesting. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, like, would I have painted at all? I don't know.
You've written about going through a period of despair and self-destruction after college. What helped you begin to find your footing again?
Yeah. Well, just my faith in Jesus filling my heart and letting him heal me, and showing me ways to, if I'm not allowed to talk about that stuff on school, I don't know.
No.
Yeah. But that was a big deal. And just kind of what I said earlier too, it's like letting yourself take the fork, the good road.
Yeah.
And because it's really difficult, and I think what we all want to do is do the bad road and be woe is me, because that's how we all feel. We all have hardships. We all have difficult things to go through, and it's how you connect them into a broader lens, I guess, or scope in your life. Hopefully does that answer?
Yeah.
You have to cut those out every time I answer questions. Does that answer? Cut that out.
How did faith become part of your story and your creative work?
Yeah. Well, that was a hard thing about college, is because I didn't meet any Christians in college. Mm-hmm. Hardly any. I think because I don't think the arts really promote being a Christian.
Yeah.
In art galleries, and you know, like New York and all that stuff. The art gallery scene, it's not like known for its faith, and it's known for more of like a critique on. It's kind of a postmodern viewpoint, like nihilism or something. So, what was that?
How did faith become part of your story?
And then, sorry. And also growing up, because I grew up in my family, my grandfather was a preacher, and we lived with him for a while. So that was like, I watched him, and he's just like one of the strongest people I know. So I'm glad that foundation early on in my life was there. And then, you know, it's kind of like the classic story, you veer off your course in college and go crazy. and normally, you hear that story a lot, and then as you get older, like, you come back around, because how you're raised really does give that imprint on you, I think.
You teach a weekly class at the county prison. What has that experience taught you?
That's probably one of the hardest things I do, because you go into, first of all, like, guys can be covered in tattoos, like their whole heads and faces, and they can be, up front, and they're honest, and they will challenge you, because if some of them aren't in a great place to listen, so that's really hard, because it's not like in school where everyone listens, sits quietly, so that's probably the most challenging thing, and you don't want to lose the room, because if they start to challenge you and you start to see that, if you show that you're kind of lost or confused, then people start to pick up on that, and then you can, I just call it lose the room, because you want to keep the flow going, and it's I don't really have any training in teaching, even though my mom was a teacher, and I've had good relationships with teachers through my life, but no one can, you really just have to learn by doing it and throwing yourself in there, and that is the craziest place to throw yourself in. So yeah, it's been, and you have to come up with your own lessons, and you really want to think about your audience, these guys that have been through terrible, their lives are just from what I've noticed is I try to think of them, I see them as kids that didn't, if you start to see everybody's man, he was just a little kid that didn't get enough attention or love when he needed it. And that can really help to, the message that you tell them, and to see them as people, because we all could, at least I believe, you can all, it's just one, who knows what, you don't get to choose how you're born or what situation you're born into. Something could have happened to you, or you're one step away from something terrible happening to you, and you have to make that decision to be a good person or a bad person, Yeah, so it's a challenging, really, and it's really rewarding, because you can see people in prison grow, and you can actually physically see it. Sometimes they've just spiritually change, their body changes, and you can see it in their eyes. So that's pretty cool. So there's a lot of stuff, you get good feedback right away from it.
What advice would you give to a student who loves art but is unsure whether they are good enough to pursue it seriously?
Do not worry about if you're good enough. I would worry about if you just love it, then you should do it, with anything. Yeah, because I think about so much how someone told me that I wasn't good at writing, and I took that to heart, and I shouldn't have done that. And I wish I had, like you were saying, or in the hall, or here, I forget when you said, but that there is no bad, it's objective or subjective. Yeah. So, yeah, really it's just about, the longer I live, it's the passion inside that keeps you making it. So if you have that, then do it, pursue it. Because there's so many avenues now with technology and, our society, art can fit into so many different things that it doesn't have to just be this one cookie cutting. Yeah.
I always tell people, never do something that you don't like to do. Always do what makes you happy, no matter what. Don't ever put yourself in a situation where you're going to be, uncomfortable doing something. Just, always do what makes you happy.
Yeah, I agree. And don't worry about the critics.
Yeah. Especially in high school.
Absolutely. It can be high school's very hard. Because you might not know about the world and the bigger picture, and with anything, you can have tunnel vision and think that the people that you might have grown up with them in high school, your whole life, and that's all you know. So you really take their opinions much deeper than it. A couple years out of high school, you realize there's the whole world out here, and that's not to, be dismissive about high school or anything.
Yeah. What advice would you give to students who feel differently or like they do not quite fit in?
Yeah, that's hard. I don't. That's a hard thing. Hopefully, there's a lot more avenues now. I think technology gets a bad rap, and social media gets such this doomsayer that people are getting all these. The bad things are happening because of technology. But I think that, when I was probably in older, 5th grade into middle school, and I was still at Northern Bedford, and there was no one around me that was interested in the music that I was interested in.
Yeah.
And I was also interested in they called them zines, Z-I-N-E-S, and they're independent publications, and so you would just make your own magazine and fold it in half and staple it. And online, I found this whole community of people that were into what I was into. And back then it was just message boards and stuff. And that was a big deal because after school I could go and there were people that knew about what I liked and the bands that I liked. And so I think that is probably even more now, because back then the internet was still, it's always still new. Like, so even now and then in 10 years it'll be completely different and it'll just keep getting deeper and deeper. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of avenues for that. And don't be afraid to reach out to people. There are great teachers that they've also experienced how you feel. Like, I think the one lie about how evil works in this world is that you are the only one experiencing what you're experiencing. And that is the greatest lie that could ever be told, because there's many people that go through what you're going through. So maybe don't be afraid to talk about it, or, and I think schools have done a great job, or society in general. Back even when I was little, like, there was a lot less you could go to tell people about things, but I think there's more avenues now, so that's good. Maybe you could probably tell me that, or not, if there is or not. But
yeah, I would say there is.
It seems like I have a 14-year-old, and it just seems better. There's just more things that you can go to and reach out. A lot of
resources.
Yeah, resources. Thank you. That's the word. Yeah, I agree.
Any closing comments or things you would like to say to young artists and students today?
I think we covered pretty good. Yes, good questions. This has been awesome. I'm impressed with this podcast. This is my first podcast, so that's pretty cool. Thank you.
Very glad to have you. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us and for sharing both your work and your story. It's always great to have Tyrone alumni come back to invest in today's students, and we appreciate your perspective. That was Tyrone Area High School alumni Jordan Rhoat, this year's juror for the 25th Annual Tyrone Area High School Art Show. Thank you for listening to the Eagle Arts Podcast, and be sure to check out the art show on Thursday, April 23rd, today.